This is Access Chapter 10 training video, and we're picking up on Step 14. But I do want to talk about what we did in Step 13. So we created a report based on a query that was that had a parameter, which is fine. However, there are techniques where you can allow for that entry of parameters in an easier or more elegant way for the user. And that's what we're going to move to now. Although what we did in Step 13 is perfectly acceptable, there's the next step where you can provide a form that the user can go back and forth and enter that data rather than through the little parameter box that Access provides. Because sometimes that, where it says parameter, confuses users. And so this next group of instructions is going to walk us through how to create this form that will sit on top of the report that we're going to run in order to enter the parameters. So even though we're working on reports, we're going to create a form because we want to capture some input, okay? So we are on Step 14. So we are creating a form. So if you're looking in your textbook, it would be starting on page 556. We're going to create a form for entering the parameters. So we're going to create in form, but here's the thing. Note where this says a blank form, a blank form. We haven't done that before. We've always had forms that are attached to an underlying table. This one, we're going to create a blank form. So we want to click blank form, and it's just this screen, right? And I did, let's see. Okay, so we have this. We want to switch to layout view, which is what I'm in, and insert a title with the text renewal date form by a student. Okay, so where do we want to do that? We want to do that in up in the header, right? So we want to be in design. Right here's our header footer group, and look, right here is title. Click on title. It's going to put right here in the form, it's going to open up that header group. It's going to put a title box in there so we don't have to do anything else except type our name. So renewal date form by a student. So we're done with that. Insert a label at the top left corner of the form details area and type text enter dates for renewal queries and reports. Okay, so insert a label. So design, controls, find a label. We're going to come in here, right? Do you see we're down here in this? They have us doing it in layout, and honestly, guys, I do all this in design, but we'll do it in label because that's where your instructions. So we're going to put in a box, and we're going to type enter dates for renewal queries and reports. Top left. All right, we're going to change the font. We're going to change the font. So I'm going to go to Format, Font Color to red, and the size to 14. And I got a typo in there. So enter dates for renewal queries and reports. We're going to save this as FRM member renewals underscore a student. Now we're not done with this, but we're just naming it and we're going to keep working. So we have all of that done. All right, move on. Insert a text box control below the enter dates label. Type start date in the text for the label. Select the text box and change the format property to short date and the default value to equal date. Okay, so we got to break that down. So first of all, let's look for the control. Text box, right? We're looking for a text box. So we know on design, in controls, we're going to find a text box. We're going to place it below this label that we. So I'm going to drop this right about here, right? Drop it in and look, it put it as part of the control. Over here in where it says text, mine says text 4, we're going to put start date. Then we're going to select the text box control, and in our property sheet we're going to change it to short date format, short date, and the default value to equal date. So I'm going to go over here to data so I don't have to look through so much. Default value equal, I'm going to zoom for you guys. Zoom, equal, date, left, right parentheses. Remember that right there puts the current system date. We're going to change the name of the text box to start date. So all name start date. So we have that control done. So that's going to control the start date. Insert a text box control below the start date text box. Type end date. All right, so we're going to start over. We're going to create text box. We're going to come and pop it in right here. Just click. It brings it all pointed part of that group. We're going to type end date as the label. Select the text box and change. Okay, well, hold on. Let me get rid of it. So we inserted the text box below. We did that. Oops. What do I keep hitting? Okay. Type end date in the text label. We did that. So that's this part over here, the label. All right. Select the text box, boom, and change the format property to short date. So format, short date, go to data, and default value is also today's date. So it will preload with today's date as the start and end date. Change the name of the text box. So I'm going to go to all, go to the very top, name, end date. And I think I'm done with the properties right now. So we're going to do this. Merge the row above the start date text box. Split the cells containing start and end dates horizontally. Okay. So this is on 557 step K. So it says click the blank space above start date right there. click the Arrange tab, and then the Rows and Columns section, select Row. We want to select Merge. Is that what that's saying? Telling us to do? Change the name of the text. Merge the row. Yes, we're merging. So now this is all one. So if you think of this as two columns, it was in two columns. So if you relate it to Word, it's like merge across or merge and center, only we didn't center. Split the cells containing the start date and end date boxes horizontally. So we're going to select this text box. We're going to come up here and say, which way are they? Horizontal, split horizontal. Okay. We're going to do that to the second one, split horizontal. So what it did is it shortened it up, and what we're going to end up doing eventually is, let me show you here. Oh no, we're going to keep them like that. I thought we put them in the same row, but we did not. Okay. All right, so we are done with this step. And I know this movie's going a little long, but I want to get through this next step. So we're going to save this form and close it. Now we want to open the query for renewals, member renewals in Design View. So what we want to do is delete this query that we used before, right? So what we want to do in place is say, go get the information that was entered on that form. So I'm going to right click. No, you know what? I'm going to do a build. Let's do a build. All right. So we're going to type the word between, because we still have to do that, right? Then we have to put in what control contains the information that was entered, and that's on that form that we just created. So it's in this database, so I'm going to open that up, and it's going to say, okay, this is a form. I'm going to say all forms, and I want to find member renewals, a student, and click on it. And then it'll bring up the control, and I want to do start date. So double click on start date. So rather than having to type all that, if we used the builder, it puts it all in and you don't have to worry about missing part of it. But now to be part of this between, we have to do and then we want to get the other control, which would be end date, right? Double click on end date. Much simpler than typing all that. Okay. Save. But here's the thing. You have to have this form open in order to feed this query, okay? So there's times where you might get an error because you're opening one of these objects and the other one that it needs in order to kind of like exist isn't opened yet. So I'm going to end this movie at this point, and then we'll work on tying these pieces together in the next movie. So I'm going to save this form, this query, and close it. Okay, thank you.